Africa, as a continent of 54 nations, is blessed with abundance of natural resources, from its soil to the minerals, the natural minerals that comes out of its land, to the beauty and creativities of its people, and the energy from the sun. The possibilities are endless. At least until one take a look across the continent and see that the lack of infrastructure development have hindered economic growth as well as development growth across the continent. In the last 2 decades, effort has been underway to change that narrative to a positive story of development, of possibility, through partnership in critical and investment in critical infrastructure such as energy, bringing more electricity to more people across the continent. One of those partners is the U.S. government and U.S. private investors. A U.S.-led project, Power Africa, which was launched in 2013 by President Obama during his trip to Africa. President Biden, who was then Vice President of President Obama and is now the President of the U.S., have continued to build on that effort. In 2022, December 2022, he invited African leaders to the U.S. for the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit and the U.S. Africa Business Summit that generated a lot of possibility, a lot of investment, a lot of commitment to develop infrastructure on the continent, including investment in critical energy. I'm right here in front of the Mayflower Hotel in downtown Washington, D.C., where an event is taking place inside titled Powering Africa. Gathering here today has several African leaders, African energy minister, and the private sector are gathered here to talk about the possibility and look at the several possibility and partnership that could take place between the U.S. and Africa. One of the ministers that present here today is the minister from Eswatini, a small African country close to neighboring to South Africa, that is looking to seeking more opportunity to develop its own energy system to bring electricity to its people. I sat down with the minister and two of his delegation for a discussion on what they are looking for and how investors, both in the U.S. and in other outside of the U.S., can partner with them to make the reality of bringing more electricity, renewable energy to the nation. Take a listen. We are at the Powering Africa Summit. Today is the last day. The event just concluded, and I have with me the Minister of Energy, and along with delegations from Eswatini. Mr. Minister, talk about um, your agenda, what you had in mind coming to this event. What were you hoping to achieve by attending this event?
As you have said, energy is very important, not just for Africa, but for the entire world. We are here as Africa to meet and to discuss, share notes, compare experiences for success in energy. We're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about green energy, we're talking about sustainable energy. Those are the issues. Financing energy. We ourselves in the kingdom were people looking for advancement in terms of energy production. We still import about 80% of our energy, and we need a solution to turn that around, to skew it the other way, such that at least we produce at least 80% and import or even export energy. We're here to meet with our colleagues in Africa, in Europe, the financiers, the producers of energy, so that we are in a position to work with them and produce energy for the country. Otherwise, energy in Africa is very important. For ourselves, as I've said, we import a lot of our energy from South Africa and Mozambique, but a lot from South Africa. As you know, South Africa has some issues
with energy right now.
with production of electricity, load shedding every day, and we are afraid we don't want to be caught off guard. So we're working very well with South Africa. We're cooperating, but still, that doesn't mean we should stay at ease. We have to work with people and come to terms and invest in energy in the land.
So what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, is you're looking to produce energy in your own country.
Yes, we are. We have the resources, but it is so complicated. We need some assistance because this is a complicated business. Energy is not a cheap thing, and it's not an easy thing to do. So we are working together. That's why I'm having my CEO here for the EEC, which is the company producing electricity and importing.
Is that the private sector, the government owned?
Private sector.
Yeah.
But semi-government,
Okay.
parastatals. I have also with me the regulator, the person who's responsible for seeing who can come in, whom can we work with in terms of energy production in the country. But otherwise, the country is very open for business. We're a country that is very peaceful, that has a long history of peace, where you'd have a peace of mind in working there. We have a vast number of different companies, foreign companies, working with peace in Eswatini. So I can tell you that whoever wants to work with us, we are welcome. We'll be welcome, and we'll be happy.
So you're looking for opportunity to work with the private sector, the American private sectors.
We're not only looking to working with the private sector in America. This is the meeting of Africa, the meeting of America, and many others.
Other nations.
Yeah. So we are very open, not only to America alone, but the entire world.
To the
And we have opportunities in the land that we believe are very attractive in every term you can think of. Because right now, what's killing Africa is the perception that things do not work in Africa. There's corruption in Africa. There's misgovernment in South Africa. There's no governance. I can tell you, in Eswatini, we may not be the perfect, but we're a very good example of governance in terms of governance, corruption, something that
anti-corruption.
Anti-corruption, been pronounced by the head of state many times that we should work against corruption, we should embrace governance. So if our head of state, His Majesty the King, is saying that, and we embrace his words, and that's what we do.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly turn to the private sector
Yes.
before I speak with you. You are working with the government. talk about the opportunity that are available in the country right now. He has mentioned that they want to develop energy in the country, but lack the infrastructure and the tools to be able to do that. And the private sector is where it comes in with the funding and the capital. So talk about how you're working with them on this issue.
Right. Thank you very much. Our engagement with the government is simple. The government does the energy master plan and provides us with the information of the areas that we need to focus on. And as a utility, we then take that master plan and put plans to put together an action and implement those projects. We are looking at various energy mixes. We're looking at solar, we're looking at clean coal, we're looking at hydropower, we're also looking at the geothermal, which is increasing our clean energy into the country. Right now, we believe that there are opportunities that exist in those spaces. We are looking at partnering with key stakeholders in the business. We're also looking at partnering with engineering firms that can provide the technical know-how on those areas, as well as financial institutions to unlock the finance that is required to develop those projects. And our coming here is to get those networks brought together. We have observed that this event was attended by engineering firms as well as financing firms, government institutions as well, which are key in unlocking some of these challenges that we face in this sector. And as the minister says, the perception that we have a high risk is created more than a real perception. As a utility, I can speak from the background that we are audited by international auditing firms, which looks at the integrated approach of our business. And we can safely say that over the years we've operated within good governance structures, and we are capable of servicing our debts as well. So these projects, which I have mentioned, require this kind of funding from the development phase as well, all the way to the construction phase.
Okay. I'm gonna speak with you deal with the regulatory aspects of things, which is very, very important. So, as the minister mentioned at the top, a lot of investors, there, are, there are plenty of opportunities on the continent, in your country and across the continent. And the challenge is regarding regulatory. And how have you make it business friendly to businesses that within the continent and those that are coming from outside of the continent to be able to do business and support the agenda for electricity in the country?
Um, Very briefly, I think you're quite right. I think any investor will first look at the regulations of that country, whether they will suit him to put money into new businesses or the energy industry. Fortunately, in the country, as the minister would have highlighted here, we have a very clear liberal piece of legislation when it comes to energy regulation. It is a relatively new legislation by certain standards, and that gave us an opportunity to put in place a legislation which considered the interests of investors. For that reason, I think our Electricity Act as well as the Energy Regulatory Act, they basically make sure that investor interest is catered and protected. Furthermore, we do need to say that as a regulator, our other duty is therefore to develop regulations to guide and govern how the industry is managed. We are happy to say that all the investments or tenders which have been issued have attracted the significant players, international players in the industry. A good indication that the environment in Eswatini is very good and ripe for investment. Part of the reason we are here is to share knowledge, sensitize investors and potential funders who are able to inform us of how we should even improve our regulations for them to plant money in Eswatini. So certainly we're quite happy with the progress, the feedback. We also had an opportunity to meet other regulators and compare notes, both in Africa and expectations from international firms and industries.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna and I don't anyone can jump in here. As I'm listening to you, what comes to mind? African Development Bank is a major supporter of renewable energy in Africa, providing loans, providing technical support. Um, are you working with the AFDB on some of these projects on your agenda?
Indeed, yes, we are. In fact, we are happy to say that all our new generation capacity that we have procured through auctions is fully supported and funded by the African Development Bank. We're even happy to say that we participate in the AFDB study on measuring the Africa Electricity Index, and Eswatini has come top, and we are one of the few countries that have been supporting further in doing a gap analysis by NARUC, and they have funded and given us funds to also close those gaps based on the general performance of the country compared to other peers. So certainly I think we can confirm that the AFDB has been very instrumental in supporting the country and measuring our performance and comparing us with other countries.
Okay.
So indeed, yes.
We are, it's important to note that ADB is working with us and they've been supporting us, and we're happy for the support. And as much as we are with this conference, Power Africa, we are grateful to all of them. And you must know that ADB does not work alone. They work with a variety of other institutions, financial institutions, and other institutions. So
The World Bank, the
yeah,
IMF,
World Bank,
yeah, the
many, many,
US,
many.
yeah.
So on its own, through ADB, we are in fact thankful to all the partners we work with. And we are grateful to Power Africa for hosting this conference since 2014. It was stopped for about 3 years, I think, this being the first after the COVID problems and economic problems, this being the first. We are grateful this conference is back on its footing. We are looking forward for the next one, and it is very, very useful to us. Maybe it's because I'm new here, I don't know, but I found the discussions quite encouraging, quite interesting, and quite enriching in terms of information. What you can do, who can you work with, how can you see success, especially in the green energy sector.
So, I mean, talk about, I guess, to wrap this up, job creation is a huge part of this also.
Of course.
It's not just, oh, we're producing energy. And people that will be affected also. One of the, as you said, there have been several panels today, and some conversation that have taken place today, and some of the concern is when infrastructures are developed for these projects, various projects, energy projects, how oftentimes those projects are not maintained, are not well maintained. So, what is your goal? What is your agenda to make sure that when the private sector comes in and develop this, help you to develop this project, and you can talk about this also, that 10, 15 years down the road, those projects won't be abandoned, that it will be maintained. So, and I guess this is where working with the private sector, job creation, this is where it comes in. So if you can talk about that aspect.
I wouldn't say much about that because we don't seem to have that kind of experience where we do projects and abandon them in the country. I've heard about it in the conference that in many countries projects are being put up and are not maintained and they die a natural death. But it's not like that with us. I have the private sector here. Maybe they can confess the other way around. But I do know that we normally have some plans ourselves. Long-term plans, construction, maintenance, long-term maintenance. So our projects are working well. We do not have the experience of abandoned projects. No. Do we?
Thank you, Minister, for that compliment. Indeed. I may just add that a few years ago, I was approached by a company from West Africa, which is partnering with a European company, with the view that they were going to help us to maintain our fleet. We have a fleet of we have a 70 megawatt fleet of power generation plant, which comprises of 10 megawatts of solar, which is the newest plant, which was commissioned about 2 years ago, and we have 60 megawatts of hydropower, which has been commissioned since the inception of this company. This company is 61 years old this year, and all that fleet is still in operation. It, Obviously, it came at various times of its life, but there is none of these fleets that are operating below their potential capacity. And that is because of our planned maintenance regime to make sure that the plants are running at all times. We've also been extending the grid, the transmission grid, and all the national transmission lines are working to their most efficient points. Now, what we do on an annual basis is a plan to do the maintenance, and we are quite grateful that the regulatory authority has afforded us sufficient tariffs to make sure that the plant remains operational at its optimum level.
Okay. So to wrap this up, what what is the energy that you're looking to produce? Whether it is solar, whether it is hydro, what could you give us an estimate?
Right.
What age?
The capacities that we are looking at developing on the solar, we are currently, with the assistance of the regulator, procuring 75 megawatts of solar, and the utility is developing 33 megawatts of hydropower, and we're looking at developing clean coal at 300 megawatts to support the base load. We're also looking at the potential for geothermal, which is at the early stages of its development. We can't say much about what we expect there until we complete the first exploration to make sure that that potential is realized.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
sitting
you.
with me.
Thank you.